Coach Jeremy Growe is in his sixth season at Furman University. Got just 4 clips for Coach Growe to look at. Have him tell what it is, what's good about it, maybe something that could be improved upon, and then anything else that they might say to their players that would help improve learning here.
Yeah, so obviously we're in our elbow stuff here. Starting to get into playoff penetration. I'll go a little bit more in detail as we slow it down, but really good ball movement, great possession. So we're coming in, we're trying to flow as quickly as possible into action and get into our elbow stuff, play off that high split here. If you rewind that back, so I think that's really interesting here. Ben Vanderball, who just cuts here, he's an elite cutter, kind of knows himself, and so he knows that his threats on the rim can really just keep ball movement, keep a rim threat, and keeps the music going. So go ahead and play it. So if you rewind this, another nuance here. If you rewind this back, I'm sorry I missed this. So we go to this high split over here, play it, and Garrett doesn't like it, right? Sanford's denied a little bit, so he just goes and he plays the other side, which we do a lot. Which when things get choppy, there's always an answer, a way to get out of a read. So go ahead, sorry, play it. Now we got, we're going to go ahead, and so we've got the defense moving, and we're playing off penetration at this point. In terms of spacing, probably would want PJ spacing all the way that corner, that strong side corner. You can see his guys able to help, but we're playing off 2 feet. Now this is really the playoff penetration where our skill comes into play. So goes ahead. We've got a baseline drift, pass, one more, things we emphasize. We're low and ready on the shot and really good possession.
Terminology wise, do you just talk the idea of kind of like playing to the next? What do you tell them so that they know both what to look for, if they don't like, what to look for next?
There's 2 things. I think one, simply if they feel like what they're looking at is going to be choppy and it's not going to be seamless, well, then go play the other side, right? That means that the other side is going to be, a little bit, should be theoretically a little bit easier to get action. The other thing is if teams are really, really loaded up, right? Like the teams that just sit on the midline and they're going to keep the thing really tight. A lot of times that's a way to capitalize on teams that do that. And we may tell them that going into a game.
It seemed like this last year, everybody was doing something that either ended or had within it empty side ball screen like you guys had. I know you've been doing
Mhm.
it for a while. It wasn't like you just did it, but that with the ability to throw to the opposite side when help does come, just teaching them to learn to see that and to recognize that and then to make that decision. How do you go about doing that, especially early on in the year?
Obviously, Garrett, who was doing it right there, he's been doing it. That's his 4th year doing it, right? And we're lucky to get him back for a 5th year. So that experience happens, and I don't think there's a magic to it, right? It's film study. We talked about it on the front end. We're going to play a lot, and we want them to feel things and see things. And we don't stop practice a whole lot offensively, but if there's something, a big point, we'll do that. But just the film study and just the reps of feeling it and seeing it is really the best way to do it. I don't think there's a magic drill. I don't think there's a magic potion to it. It's just continually getting our players more comfortable playing this way on a day-to-day
Actually,
basis.
Actually, as soon as I ask it, I did also remember last summer, you guys actually turned part of that into a shooting drill, and you did it, I think, like 3 on 0 or 4 on 0,
Yep.
where it
Yeah,
was
we'll do some 3-on-0 breakdowns of different things we're trying to emphasize, and we'll incorporate our skill as well throughout that. But as we kind of get through, I'm a pretty big believer that just keep playing, right, and just let them feel it and see it, and they get more and more comfortable the more they do it.
last thing with this, part of the reason why I picked this one, the possession, I didn't see what it was when he shot it, but it went on pretty long. I thought it was interesting you started talking about, like, playing with pace, and I still think some coaches think playing with pace means that I'm shooting early in the shot clock and probably
Yep.
shooting a three. You did shoot a three, but it came towards the very end of the shot clock. But changing sides and then, keeping the ball moving. Is there anything that you guys track or, you know, total or whatever that has anything to do with number of times or anything that you look at that allows you to know whether or not the offense is quote unquote working?
Probably earlier on when I first got here, we probably tracked more side to side movement. Hey, two ball reversals, three ball reversals. I think the longer we're all around the game, we realize the more ball reversals, the better your PPP, and it's going to be on a possession. But really, at the end of the day, we're tracking efficiencies, right? And we're tracking both individual and our team, and trying to understand that are we, above that number, right? Are we really, if we use analytical companies where they'll tell us based off who we're playing where we should be,
Mhm.
and every team will be different. And so we're just more tracking that. And when we don't make our marks and, using the analytics to then, you know, analytics will tell you the story, right? But then you've got to figure out how you got to the end through film, through study. So, and that's the balance of analytics is okay, this is what it's spitting out, but why did this happen? So
Mhm.
hey, if our offense is humming and we're playing fast and we're getting, a lot of times the best three you can get is wide open corner threes in transition, right? And the defense isn't set, and there's, the ball goes across the floor and swung one more. And so just understanding where our shots are, and what the value is on each attempt.
Maybe that might help some coach. I know early on with the same thing with us. There was a lot of tracking and then also talking about change size of the floor. Let's change size of the floor. Let's change. And then it became something where I didn't need to talk about that anymore. It just happened. And
Right.
then it allowed us to then look at the things that you just mentioned, which made us more efficient.
Yep. Absolutely.
Next one here, another half court possession.
So another clip where, playing off the elbow. He goes, plays the elbow to kind of switch some stuff out. So we go ahead and we bump the thing back. Now we're getting into what we call a toss game, right? And so we don't have to use the ball screen, play off handoffs. They go under it, they switch it. Okay. So now we're just going to play off penetration. And then perfect world, PJ is probably more corner. But we use our skill work, our 2 feet, our pivots to go ahead and play behind, and just that little movement creates a wide open three. So obviously another great possession by our guys, and doing what we work on.
Saw somebody say the other day, the best thing that you can do sometimes is stand where you are. And especially if you're in the corner or supposed to be in the corner, stand where you are. Do you
Yep.
guys talk about, or is there a way for you to create more long closeouts for the defense?
I think by staying in the corner, you're just maximizing the space on the floor. So I think all players naturally want to come to the ball, right? So, and what happens is, as basketball evolves and there's more and more gap defenses, well, that shrinks the gap, right? That's easier for the defense, where especially, we like to have a lot of shooters on the floor, right? So maximizing that space by staying in the corner, and then we'll teach our guys how to play off penetration off of that. But we constantly point it out live play. We constantly point it out on film, because everybody wants to come get the ball, and sometimes it actually is better for that player to just stay in that corner.
The main reason I chose that one, I felt like that was one that kind of, I don't know that Sanford played the entire game like this, but a little bit more gaps, kind of sagging a little bit more than some of the teams that you play against. And I was wondering if there's any kind of adjustment that you all make, or just simply talk about, we're going to look for this more when you do have a team, especially in your elbow series stuff, that plays a little bit more sagging defense or
We
gap
see that a
defense.
lot. Teams will try to do that occasionally, just to take away our cutting and make us play over the top. And so we probably see that more than anything. And so,
Mhm.
it's on us to be patient and continue to be us. And that's what's fun about this offense, right? Take what the defense gives you, and you can make a read, and still find our cutting. Still, if people are going to go under our handoffs, well, now you saw it, right? We bumped it back, and now you're playing cat and mouse, and we still got playoff penetration. And so I think it's just constantly giving players solutions to what the defense is doing.
All right, this third clip is a zone offense clip, and I'll let it play, and then I do have a couple questions with this.
Yeah, so really, on this is just a zone set we do where we're trying to obviously they're 3-2. We're just trying to flare that weak side and get us in action. And then really, I mean, with zone, we don't overcomplicate it. You can tell we end up just in 5 out in our normal flow. It's just natural for our players. And what's interesting about zone is a lot of times if you go 5 out, um, like we do here. I mean, now that really spreads the defense. They don't know what to do. We end up burning this thing out, and you can tell we stay the corner here, right, and just puts pressure on the defense. Now you got five guys around the perimeter, and that's uncomfortable for the defense. And so this is just a simple action. Really, it's not the action that gets it. The action gets the defense in rotation, but then we're just in normal flow from there.
I would have to imagine that most teams don't play you in zone unless they're crazy, like one of the teams that you play against. But outside of that, but outside of that, um, the ability to not just space it and shoot threes, but then just because of the style that you play, after you space it, their ability to read and recognize cuts. I'm guessing that you don't talk or practice a whole lot against zone.
We really don't. I mean, the more we can just be us. No zone likes a vertical cut. I don't care what zone you're playing. I mean, it's just not comfortable because who are you passing things to and the rim threats and different things like that. For us, we just try to be us as much as possible and play in concept.
Final clip here is a baseline out of bounds play. Just first about your alignment choice that you guys use, and then kind of reasoning for that. I would also like to know how many out of bounds plays you guys like to run. Then, in the way that they're designed, it seems like the most of them are not I call them one hit wonders. Like if we get this, great. If we don't, it's over. But it seems like you all have a couple scoring options off of them, and they also seem to flow pretty seamlessly into just your half court offense.
Coach Warner, last couple of years on our staff's called underneath out of bounds, and so we've typically been my whole time here that four flat alignment. This is one of Coach Ritchie's favorites. It's just a lot of different options here, right? You got this tight pin handoff coming down the floor. If we don't like it, if you see on the backside, we're able to keep it and throw it to that back pin, which we don't, but we ended up just getting a corner burn off of this one. That's just our players reading, right? That's no special. I think in terms of flowing into offense, I think it just goes back to everything we say. We always just have a way for our team to fix the floor and keep playing. And so I don't think that's necessarily anything we work on underneath out of bounds. That's just more how we play, and we always have solutions to keep the action going.
How often do you all work on special situations?
We do it a ton. We'll do it about 10 minutes, 15 minutes the day before, more in terms of what we're going to run. We may put in one or two things every couple games just to keep it fresh. So we'll end up, throwing some things out, or there's going to be some things that are staples no matter what. And so our playbook will get pretty big. And then on the other side, defensively, same thing. We'll more walk through that the day of the game in terms of specials, but we try to spend a lot of time on it.
When people say we play a lot of 5-on-5 or we play, I don't know what coaches are thinking about or what that means. But just observation, you all seem to do a lot of shorter segments, like 10 minutes or 6 minutes or that kind of thing. And it seems to, like, by doing those 5, 6, 10 and focusing on something during that segment. But then towards the end of the segment, what I noticed that happens a lot is that clock stops and you have extensive timeouts, longer than longer than 1 or 2 minutes, especially if Coach Ritchie has a real fun play that he wants to draw up, that you all will then almost create a special situation. But it's not like, okay, right now we're going to practice special situations. It just seems like it's just something that you do naturally on a regular basis. Is that accurate?
Yep. Coach Ritchie never passes up an opportunity to work on a special situation. We could be in a 4-minute game, and then all of a sudden, a team's down 5 with 28 seconds left in the ball. Well, he may take a timeout, and that's a rep for our team. That's also a rep for him. right? And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
just finding those organic situations to give our players an opportunity to work on different things. We take advantage of that a lot. I mean, even in the summer, right? And we'll play live about 30 minutes a day up and down, and all of a sudden, we got a close game. There may be a timeout, side out, and there's 3 seconds on the clock, and we're going to get everybody, right? Coaching staff and players are going to get a rep both offensively and defensively of what we're trying to do there, which so it just constantly gets thrown into practice.
Seems like too, sometimes when those special situation plays are drawn up, there's something that the players have never seen before. I, in the past, have thought, no, don't do that. You don't want to do that because then when the game comes or whatever, you don't want to drop something new. I threw that out when I heard a couple coaches were like, no, we just draw random stuff up and our not random, but you know what I'm saying, like
Yep.
new plays and that kind of thing. But then their players became more comfortable with that, and you were able to do that then in a game. So I tried it this year, and it worked wonderfully.
I know
Is
that.
is that is that, but seriously, like, we're playing you, and it's supposed to be a 50-point game, and it was about a 50-point game, but there comes a point in time where, like, you I don't have 1,000 plays, and we're playing in the first 2 months of the
Yep.
season or something like that. You have to have something. There has to be something
Yep.
that you go to. You can't just keep doing the same thing. I do, feel like that's an advantage that if your players are comfortable with that, then you're able to create something that's not completely foreign. It wasn't like we were just making up running a hammer screen on one side and something else on the other, and they never seen either of those things before. Do you all do that kind of thing where you're putting together actions pieces on a new play, but they're able to run and execute it because they're A, familiar with the actions, but then also B, they're used to something new being drawn up for them in a timeout.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's like I said, I think that's reps for everybody, right?
Mhm.
Coaches, players, and the more you do it, the more everybody gets comfortable with it. And we may pick out a couple things that we are going to draw up on the board, and on the day of the game and walk through. We may just walk through it one time, so it's not brand new, right? There may be a
Mhm.
couple things we may walk through. Hey, this may in this situation we may get to this. So no, I'm a big believer in it, and especially if you got cerebral guys that can pick those things up, it's a huge, huge advantage, and it's able to keep the other opponent off off rhythm.
And coaches will say, "Well, I don't have those kind of players." I didn't either, but we develop those kind of players,
Yep,
and I think that's
that's good.
something that you can practice just like anything else.